We can read today in John chapter 1, verses 10 through 13. So John 1, starting at verse 10. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. So let's look at these. Look at these verses here. It says, he was in the world, which is an amazing thing, right? He was here in the flesh. Of course, he's always here. We know that he's omnipresent and he promises to always be with us, but this time was different. He was actually in this world. He put on humanity, the Bible tells us. He talked and walked with men. He was physical. He was sitting right beside human beings. He was having dinner with real people, sitting right across the table, sitting right beside somebody. And he was here, talking and laughing, crying and feeling the pains that humans feel. He was here in this world of ours. So he knows what it's like for your back to ache. He knows what it's like to get a splinter in your finger. He knows what it's like to feel hunger and to be thirsty. He was here. He was actually and literally in our shoes. He knows personally what it's like to be you and me. He was here. He knows what it's like to feel pain in your heart. He knows our sorrows and our heartbreaks. He was here. And to me, this is truly big news. So he was in the world. He was right here in this world, interacting with men. He came to be one of us. He was here, just like us. It says he was in the world, and the world was made through him. So he's the maker of the world. He made this world perfect and beautiful. He gave it to us, and we broke it. But he came back to fix it. With his own hands, with his own creativity and imagination, and his own strength, he came to fix the world that he made. And he came here to the place he made. He lived among the people that he made, and he experienced firsthand what it's like to be one of us. And I love that because it says in Hebrews 4:15, it says, we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. So anything you go through, it says in all points, like as we are, he was tempted. Any difficulty you go through, any temptation you have to sin or to do what's not right, he knows that temptation. He experienced it himself, and he has sympathy on us because he went through that. He sympathizes with our weaknesses, having faced the same things that we face here. And that's valuable because often we don't sympathize with our own weaknesses, and even more often we don't sympathize with the weaknesses of others. And knowing how he went through what he went through, just like we're going through, and how he sympathized and sympathizes with us, should help us to sympathize with others as they're going through their difficulties. You know, he pities us and he feels for us. The mercy and patience he shows us are much more rich and deep because he went through it himself. It says the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. You know, among his own, in this world that he made, he was not recognized for who and what he is. The world did not know him. That's amazing, right? The world did not discern who he was. You know, and this inability to see who Jesus is, the inability to comprehend what he's worth, is caused by rejecting his light, right? It's caused by choosing darkness. Some of the people, especially religious leaders, asked Jesus to prove who he was with signs. They said, show us a sign to prove who you are. As if, you know, it was as if they could sense there was something important about him, but they just couldn't quite grasp it. And so they said, come on, give us a sign to show us who you really are. And in Matthew 16, it says this, Matthew 16, verses 1 through 4. Then the Pharisees and Sadducees came, and testing him, asked that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, when it's evening, you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning it will be foul weather, for the sky is red and threatening. You hypocrites, you know how to discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. So he said to them, come on, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. You understand what's going on. You're kind of refusing to see what's really happening. And he says that it's a wicked and adulterous generation that seeks a sign. Why did he say that? What does that mean? He said it means because they're wicked and spiritually adulterous, they're choosing darkness rather than light. They're not wanting him, they're wanting something other than him. They could have the light, they could have discernment, but they choose darkness and confusion instead. It's kind of crazy how mankind can do this. It's like being inside your own house and you turn all the lights off because you choose darkness instead of light. Now you can't see what you're doing, you can't find anything. Maybe you reach around with your hands and you find some object in the dark, but you can't see it because it's dark. You demand to know the color of the object, but you refuse to turn on the light and see. And the world was made through him, the Bible says, and the world did not know him. He came to his own. Again, I love that he came. He was here. He did not leave us to die in darkness and shame. He had pity on us and he came. He had compassion. He came to visit us. And this is how he thinks of us too, as his own. It says he came to his own. I love that. This shows how he thinks of us. We belong to him. We are his own. That's a comforting